You're listening to the Urban Come Up Podcast. Each week on the Urban Come Up Podcast, you'll hear how our guests were challenged and turned their challenges into success. And now, here's your host, Janora McDuffie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Urban Come Up Podcast. I am Janora McDuffie, and you are listening to part 2 of our very special series, Dads on Dads. If you listen to part 1, you know you're in for a treat. We still have coming back Tyrone Jackson, Victor Rogers, and Randy Hernandez. Hey. Fantastic, successful entrepreneurs and all fathers.
Yes.
So welcome back, gentlemen.
Yes, that's why we're so tired.
Exactly.
Up in the morning.
Not just from being dads, though, but also from being these successful entrepreneurs. And that's such a general title. I'm going to go by one, just so you can tell the listeners your own accolades, because I think that they need to know the power that's in this room and that they are hearing from. Let's start with you, Victor.
I have a company called the DB Lab. I'm a defensive back specialist. Basically what that is that's a position in American football for all you international listeners here. So American football, defensive backs is corners, safeties, nickel backs. I played it for a long time, of course. In college, I played it. In the professional level, I played it. And so I gained a real vast knowledge base of what that is and what it takes to be a successful defensive back. And so with that, I retired at 30.
Nice.
And I was like, what I'm going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And it was like, got this skill set. How do I use it? And so, I had a couple NFL opportunities and things of that sort. So it didn't work out for me. And I was like, okay, so I got to figure this out. I got to make something of myself, of course. I'm not going back home. That's not happening. And so I proceeded to, train a couple athletes that I had. I was a professional athlete, and so I came from a professional state of mind, the mindset, right? And I was dealing with high school athletes and high school coaches. And I saw that what I had, I can give it as long as I can teach it the correct way. Mm. And so that's what I did. And so I had 2 athletes, Isaiah and Anthony Lemos. Still like my kids to this day. And I blew the kids up. The kids became really successful. And then from there, about 6 years ago, it grew. And then it was no DB Lab at first. And then we kind of found a name, put a name behind it. And then I had some mentors, quote unquote T, who helped me out to really bring infrastructure to what I was doing. Because we saw the success there, but it needed a structure, it needed a process, progression. And so we did it. I executed on it. He gave me the wisdom to execute. I executed on it. And now we have a successful DB Lab company. And as of now, we have about 16 to 20 kids in college right now. Wow. 8 of those kids are in Power 5 Division 1, which is a big deal in my industry. And so, so my Saturdays are full.
Amazing.
Well, all right. Well, you name dropped there this gentleman named Tyrone Jackson. While we happen to have him in the studio.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say, I didn't help him with the football part.
No,
I just helped with the business.
That's it.
Right.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit, or tell everyone about the Wealthy Investor.
Yeah, the Wealthy Investor is one of the first brands I created. I teach people how to trade and invest in the stock market. I fell in love with it. I realized that you can make millions of dollars being a trader on your own. And what I do in that program, both on and offline, is I teach people the language of the stock market and how to develop a millionaire's mindset so that you can trade yourself up to $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, whatever it is that you want, and you can go out and help the world in the community. So since then, I'm in the process of developing other brands, right? Because I'm one of those guys who's a serial entrepreneur, which means I just keep starting businesses because I use a formula that creates a low-cost business with an incredibly high return. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur. I just knew I kept starting businesses. Right. And I was like, people are like, that's an entrepreneur. I'm like, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's what I do.
Well, all right. We'll get into a little bit more about that later. But in the meantime, Randy, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I think earlier I was saying I'm an actor. I've always been in the entertainment business. Tyrone and I go back a really long way. I think for myself is that the cliche of follow your dreams, love what you do, I think that's so important But I think us growing up, it was in our environment, the three of us in this room, is that we have a survival instinct. And my survival instinct was always like, take care of yourself, make sure you have something to fall back on, make sure you have just learn more as my growing up was. So every time I made money, I kind of put it somewhere. Luckily I have a strong personal family foundation, but I just got lucky, I feel, by learning from the right people. And I wound up buying some property down in Mexico with my now business partner, and that turned into another one and another one. I started learning how to flip down there and working with her. But I had a great mentor with Magdalena, my business partner down there. So that's how some of it started. And then as I got more comfortable and savvy, I also learned the wealthy investor way. And I finally attacked that concept of learning how to manage your money in the stock market, learning about fear, which was instrumental in so many things from that point on with my entrepreneurial skills as far as I got into the restaurant business with friends of mine, just investing and learning how to make that money work, better for myself, and learning about the long-term rate of return, the payoff that comes along with it. So all these different things I've kind of branched out, and I always kept my foot with entertainment, but I was smart with my money. I got money and I kind of kept it and waiting for the right moment of opportunities to use it with the right people. And I feel like I'm blessed and lucky with all that. So that's how it really kind of mushroomed into other things.
Well, in part one, we talked about, each of you shared your stories of your childhood, your relationships with your own fathers, and you talked about certain traits that helped you become so successful, including visualization.
Right.
And especially you talked about that survival instinct as well. Now, share something else for the listeners that helped you become the entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial person that is successful that you are now.
There's a couple traits, I guess, and one of them just derived from, the lack of having, right? One of the traits is just perseverance. I knew that the only way I was going to get out, what we talked about in the first segment, what I was going to get out was having to persevere. And so persevere through college, persevere through high school, right? And then I came out to California with $200 in my pocket, a black bag, and it dropped me off on the side of the road in Costa Mesa. In my mind, it was I was going to persevere and live here, or I was going to die here in OC. That was it. And so to this day, that was 10 years ago, I'm here. And so perseverance is a big deal. You have to persevere beyond what you possibly can think. You have to go to that place. I call it that place. It's a place. A lot of people, you guys can attest to this place where it's you or nothing, all or nothing. Mm-hmm. You got to go to that place. It's a place, and it's near death almost, figuratively and physically as well. But you have to go to that place in order to succeed, especially in my life. And that's what I used, that type of energy to go to that place. And so I went there and I was like, I'm taking this shot, I'm taking this chance, and I'm not going back. And it's just going to have to happen. So perseverance, the ability to see my mind's eye view and go after it, So
I'm going to stick with you a little bit longer, Victor, because you talk about that place. Do you think we're born with that place, or is that place something you can develop and learn?
Good question. I believe that place is something you have to develop. It's something that's through development. If you're climbing a mountain, right, and you fall off 10 times, normal people quit, right? It's like, okay, the mountain is not for me. But you go into that place with the added perseverance, you're like, I'm going to climb the mountain. If my fingers are going to bleed, whatever, my toes are going to bleed, whatever, I'm just going to climb. It's going to happen. I'm going to climb the mountain. And so it's a thing that turns on. And I'm telling you, man, it's between sanity and insanity. I'm telling you, it's like right there. It's on the verge of being right there. It's like, I got to do it. Like, I'm just going to keep doing it until I get there. And that's how I became what I am.
I wanted to make this point on the show because I think this is really important. Really what you talk about is drive and motivation.
Yes,
right?
Sure.
And that drive, as someone who studies human nature, that drive and motivation, I think it's in people who want to do good and people who want to do bad in the world. In other words, that same drive and motivation is in a drug deal.
Yes,
sure.
Facts.
Right? They're really putting their life on the line, right? We're following dreams, right? Yeah. It's just a matter of where you apply that drive and motivation that seems to make a difference.
That's it.
I don't want to get shot. I don't want to shoot other people to be successful. Right. And I don't want the cops looking for me.
Come on.
Right? So for me, it was easy to channel that drive into something that was productive rather than fast, easy money on the streets because that game never works out.
That's huge.
And I think that's kind of like what you're articulating, right?
Exactly.
So for you, that is a life or death drive.
Situation. It's a life or death drive for me.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and I feel like that question when you asked him, like, if it's in you, you have to make it. I think you're right. It's funny. I've been in counseling and therapy since I was really young because I had so many questions growing up in an urban city like New York. And funny, my therapist said to me, like, Randy, there's this thing, the word that an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, like, Randy, your apple, you fell onto a truck, and then the truck pulled off and drove away and drove to 12 states away from that tree.
Wow.
You hit a bump, you fell off, and that's where she's like, it is so rare with my training. And she was telling me this, like, and I can't believe I'm actually talking about it because it's so rare to meet people like that. And I never forgot that she told me that because of where I was from and how I was raised and where the path was going to take me socioeconomically from my family. Puerto Ricans in New York, in Queens. My dad, barely finished high school. He was a thug. I was on that path. And that apple that I fell into that truck and drove off is where it took me. And I'll never forget it because I truly believe that. And I had to make it on my own when that truck hit the bump and it dropped me off in that field. I was like, all right, well, this is it. This is what I wanted. Now I got to make it happen. So, perseverance is key. A lot of people don't have it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but because a lot of people tell you like heckle and no and this and that, and you're like, you got to keep going. There's always going to be an opinion.
That's it.
And my drive I have, it's like a light switch. I can't turn it off. I'm already fairly successful, right? But there's just something that wants to go to the next level. And I'll tell you why I'm so driven. Because I'm so tired of seeing other people achieve their dreams. I love these immigrant families who come here and there's like 18 of them.
Man.
And then all of a sudden they have a car. I'm like, you got a car? How did you do that? Then they have a house. And I'm like, I am like them, right? Like every day is such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
How can I just let other people achieve their dreams and put mine on the back burner? That's not going to happen.
No. Right.
That's not going to happen. Now, it's great to have dreams, but then you have to learn the mechanisms necessary for that dream.
It's all the moving parts in it.
So as long as I'm willing to be a student of life, I can try to achieve anything that is within my mind. And I further learned this through my own inner process, like take the pressure off yourself because anything that I've ever wanted to achieve, somebody's already done it.
Right.
So then why don't I just find out how they did it?
Sure.
And then put my spin on it and go for my dream. Because, whether I'm dreaming of $100 million real estate enterprise or a digital empire, somebody has already built that or something like it. Mm-hmm. So if I'm wise enough to study, then I should have similar results, right? Mm-hmm. So that for me cut down that life or death thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm not in a life or death situation anymore.
Yeah.
So now I need to adapt to that and build from that place. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm in the clear, but I got to employ all these other skills now.
Right.
Okay.
Now that I'm in the clear to get to the next level.
So now that you're in the clear to get to the next level, give us one of those skills. Something in your top 3.
I like to think of myself as multilingual, right? I can speak the money language, I can speak the business language, then I can hang out with Randy, and I can hang out with Victor, and we can keep it 100, right? Right. So learning how to adapt what is professional, what is financial, what is personal, that is a skill.
Right.
And I'm happy to have learned that skill. I've also learned how to file taxes on time and learn the state regulatory laws and all that. And that's all part of being an entrepreneur. Sure. I once heard Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, say, I don't love everything about Facebook, about running Facebook.
Right.
But I have to show up because it's my vision, and that is similar to me.
Randy or Victor, do you all have a skill to add in this top 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think that skill set is well, for me as well, too, growing up, I made me resonate with the thing. I had a really bad New York accent, right? When I moved to Maryland, I was just like, because we're going to go down to the car and do that, right? And so as I got older and I saw the people around me and how I'm like, well, they got something going on here. So I had to learn how to change. I learned how to speak my own way. I learned lose my accent on my own. I learned all that stuff by the time I was in 8th grade. Now, growing up even more, learning to speak to people, I still had this really crazy chip on my shoulder because growing up with my dad in and out, we have all these things that accumulate on your personality. And it's funny, I always, again, my military career taught me all that, to look at someone. If my kids don't extend their hand when I introduce them to someone, they know it bothers me. Even my daughter. Just because you're a pretty girl and stuff, you will be professional and you stick out your hand. It's like, hello, my name is Anastasia, and you look at them and you speak to them when you're talking to them at all times. Even my youngest children, I do the same thing. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. So that part for me was really important growing up because I didn't get that from my family growing up. I learned it all in the military. Under those conditions of structure, which is really key, that structure conditions what I got, that's like, all right, I got it. So I got all the tools I needed, and I was like off and running, of all places, back to the Big Apple.
So, Randy, that's the perfect segue into where we will go after our commercial break, which is these skills, whether it's the perseverance in the heart or whether it is learning to speak and speak directly, how you introduce that as a father to your own kids. So stick around, guys. We've got some good conversation coming back.
The Urban Come Up podcast is sponsored by LA Digital Recording, where you can have your podcast professionally edited and distributed to your fan base. Visit ladigitalrecording.com/podcast editing. You're listening to the Urban Come Up podcast. Each week on the Urban Come Up podcast, you'll hear how our guests were challenged and turned their challenges into success. And now, here's your host, Janora McDuffie.
All right, welcome back to the Urban Come Up podcast. This is your host, Janora, and this is part two of Dads on Dads. I'm here with Randy Hernandez, Victor Rogers, and Tyrone Jackson, all successful entrepreneurs and successful fathers. Yes. So we talked about the entrepreneurial part before the commercial break. Now let's wrap that on up and bring it back to being dads. So part one, you talked about all of these amazing skills, the visualization, survival instinct. How do you implement these things that have made you so successful in your lives as fathers?
Well, Randy's got 5 kids.
Yes,
yeah, we'll start with you then, Randy.
We're blended, but so 5 kids blended. But my oldest boy's 25, Jaden's 20, Anastasia's 15, and my twin-year-old girls are 6 years old. When people ask me that question, and I do get it quite a bit. I went back to school for psychology, and because I've always also my segue of other things, I was working with single dads for a while and teaching parents how to parent. And it's funny. You would look at me and with my background, and I don't, again, the Apple thing, I don't have where I get my, people ask me, like, where do you get this from? And I think it's instinctual. I think there's something in it. People ask me, like, what are you good at? And I always say, like, you know what? I'm good at being a dad. That's my first thing I say, because it's a lot of work. It's so hard, but it's so rewarding overall. And with my kids, I teach them the fundamentals of life and structure and the things that we talked about, their behavior, but kids just want structure around. Now, yes, we can go all day and talk about dad not around, mom not around. I've dealt with those issues as well too. But really, when I tell a lot of parents who are single moms, and I was a single dad at one time, you just got to be present. You must be present. Yeah. Now, some people might not agree with it and stuff, because some people take the road of like, well, I'm so busy and their success and they have businesses and stuff, and I don't get to see my son, but he'll understand. I never went that way. My children always came first. I don't know if that was a hindrance on me, but I really don't care, because I got it back tenfold. I got it back tenfold. So with my kids, what I've learned at Foundation, I talk to them about, well, that was me. And all this happened so you can have this. You're not going to go there. And I've taken my kids to Queens, and I've showed them what a railroad apartment was. And they're like, what? I go, yeah, it starts there, and you have to go through every room to get to that room. And that was my bedroom. But you had to go through all the rooms to get to that room. They're like, what? Yeah, it's called a railroad. And they're like, that looks like an attic. And like, it was a converted attic on top of a house. And that's where we lived. I said, but that's me. That's how I lived. That's not how you live. You look around, what you see is what I share with you and what we can give you as parents. But you need to know that's what it was like for me. And that's okay, because we're all right. So I let them know that life works. Life is up and down. Life is not like, oh, life is terrible. No, it's just life.
What about you, Victor? What works for you as a dad?
Works for me being a dad is being an example. So what I like to do is I like to have them around. I like them to witness me in uncomfortable situations and then execute in front of them. And, how I treat my lady, for my daughter and for my son, and then how they see that. And then just the value of family, the value of friends, and things of that sort. So I'm big on being an example. I'm big on team stuff, and so I overdo sometimes, preaching or whatever, teaching about being a team player, and within that. So
All right.
They're going to be great athletes, I'll tell you that.
They better be.
Yes.
Right.
And I think for me, I don't want to say I'm the wacky dad, because I'm not the wacky dad. But we're the way I deal with my daughters is we're all cool, but there's some rules.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
And it all depends on their age. So when they were 5 or 6, this is the one thing that I've learned about being a parent I believe is very powerful. I say to them, I'm proud of you. Those words are a lot.
Huge.
I'm like,
Huge.
I'm proud of you.
Yes.
And I am big on hugs and love.
Yes.
So that way, when it's time to discipline, I don't have to yell.
Right.
Because unconsciously and emotionally, they want that love. Right.
Right.
So I don't have to be there, what's going on here? So on and so forth. Right. Because they want daddy's hug and daddy's approval and all
Yeah.
of that. And then I respect them as little human beings. But little human beings doesn't mean there's no rules, right? So from, let's say, age to 6 to 10, I was a different kind of parent. I had to show up at everything, put stuff on the refrigerator when they did things. Don't put that in your mouth. Did you just talk back to me? That's not going to happen. Reinforce the rules,
Yeah.
right? But when you get into those teen years, and you know this, now it's a whole nother ball of wax. Because now you have to be afraid that I'm going to kill you.
Unconsciously.
There you go.
Because you're going to get challenged. And I talked to Randy, and the way he deals with his older son, he's like, well, I don't want to tell stories out of school, but
Sure.
you have this thing where your son was on a football team.
Yes, you
right?
played for UCLA.
Yeah. And he wasn't as good as the black guys.
Right.
Remember that? And
Right.
you were like, see those brothers over there?
Yeah.
They're going to college on a scholarship.
Yep.
You're not going to do that.
Right.
So you need to think about that. I was like, you said that to him? You were
Hell
like,
yeah.
I have to be able to explain to him,
Yep.
because he's privileged.
Yep.
I have to be able to explain to him, that guy works hard in a way that you don't.
Right.
So, like, don't.
So for my son, it was like, what are you going to do to get past them? Because they're out there at night
Right.
holding a football.
Come
on.
Just walking to the store.
That's it.
They're out there doing sprints on a pavement
on.
with their Converse Chucks.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
Right.
Because you have a $140 pair of Nike running shoes that mom bought you. So what are you going to do? And I said, that's the only way you're going to get on this, because you're going to have to compete with that. Because I said, look behind you. And I'd make him turn and say, he's like, what? I go, you can't see it. Those are all the people behind you who want your spot.
Correct.
Right now, they want it.
Now, I'm raising girls.
Okay.
Okay, I always say I'm raising Sasha and Malia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, it's a little bit different. So I now at this stage, because one is in college, one's soon to be in college, I am now more of a coach. Because they know not to put that thing in there, no running and all that, right? So now I'm a coach. So my daughter thinks she's going to be like a huge filmmaker.
Right.
So I'm divorced. So when I'm in town, this is the other thing. As a divorced parent, you must stay on a schedule.
Yes.
They got to know they're going to see you at this
Absolutely.
time, like it's a new normal, right?
Okay.
So, and they know that you're going to call or text, or we're going to FaceTime on this time with regularity, right? So my daughter comes over to our house in New York, and she sleeps. This is in college now. Now I'm paying all this money to NYU, right? And she sleeps till 12 o'clock.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay.
She's growing.
Now, yeah, she's growing. You should see what I pay at school. So it's 12 o'clock. I knock on the door. I'm like, you need to be downstairs in 3 minutes in the kitchen. So she can tell from the knock, like, something's going to go down, right? So she comes down, and I have just made lunch because I love to cook. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, let me explain something to you. When you're at college, you might sleep till 12, but right now, you are studying film. How many films have you made during the summer? How many short films? Well, Dad, they didn't ask. I was like, no. I'm not asking you what they asked you to do.
Come on.
Right.
What did you do on your own? Where's your initiative? Because for the money I'm paying, you should have the color purple right now.
Right.
I should see the
Part
color
2
purple.
and 3.
Right. I should see at least the first draft.
The dailies.
I should at least see the dailies, right? I don't need to see the rough cut.
Right.
But you should have the color purple right now.
Right.
Because you have advantages in life that other people don't have. He's like, what do you want me to do? I was like, first of all, don't ever come over here and sleep till 12 again. So what I'm trying to teach her right now is like expectations, to have some expectations for herself. I tried the, hey, I grew up in federally subsidized housing thing. They didn't buy that.
Right.
Right. Because they live privileged lives.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you don't know how lucky you are to have a father around. I'm like, well, all my friends have fathers. All their white friends have fathers.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, yeah, but we have cars and homes. They were like, yeah, but they have homes too. I was like, okay, that's not working.
Right.
Right. So I was just like, just get on it and make something of yourself. You know, I ran out of steam there. So parenting changes based on ages, right? So I'm not going to parent a 6-year-old. I'm sorry, a 16-year-old the same way that I would parent them from 6 to 10,
Right.
10 to 14. So I've had to educate myself and then put my instincts together to help make an incredible human being.
Yeah. And if I could add to that, because also, too, I was a single dad for a while, and then you have that other wrench in the system working with the mother. So we all have different paths we go on. I know Tyrone had to deal with it. I had to deal with it. So when I had my son, it was structure, and I was like, what do you mean you don't let him, he doesn't take out the trash? Well, he's tired. At my house, when he came over, there was no question about it. Like, he had chores to do. And like, you're going to make your bed because I'm not doing it. But Dad, you have a housekeeper. I go, yes, I do. Right. You don't.
Right. There you go.
I pay her.
Right.
She's mine.
Right.
And she does what she does. She doesn't do that. You make your bed. And I remember the first, because I moved to a smaller place, and he's like, Dad, where's the trash can? You got to go outside the front door, through the gate, up the side of the buildings of the townhouses, and it's in the back by the alley. He was like, by myself? I'm like, yeah, that's right. And he had to go do it. But after that, there was no question. It was never a conversation. He knew exactly what to do, which is so key for kids as we go through these phases of their lives and stuff. And now he's a great young man. He graduated college, and he's working. He's doing what he loves to do. You know, I mean, it's great to talk to him as an adult. And my 20-year-old son, my stepson, he's in Arizona. He didn't finish college in Colorado for football, but he came home and he went to community college for a year, and he was like, I got to finish this. And he did it all on his own, and now he's in Canyon University in Arizona. And I'm so happy for him. Wow. I'm so elated for him that he did this on his own. And we're the same. Our family, we're like, look, you didn't do it the first time, so he got all his student loans on his own, everything else he did on his own. And we're like, look, you finish, give me the invoice. We'll cover it.
And I want to say the other thing, and this is not a very popular thing to say. I'm raising privileged kids.
Yes, we are.
Not kids like who experience what I experience, right? They expect to go. What did they say to me the other day? Can we go on a cruise in France? The 16-year-old says to me. I didn't even know where France was at 16. But
it's right by Jersey.
Right.
It's right by Jersey. It's right outside of Hoboken.
Right.
Yeah, it's right past the GW Bridge.
But like, she feels like we should be cruising somewhere, right? So I realized they have a different upbringing than what I experienced. And me going, life was so hard. That's not.
You're making me laugh. My daughter last night was like, Daddy, when are we going to Hawaii? I'm like, go to sleep, Isabella Rose. I love you.
So here's what I have to explain to them. That you guys need to be exceptional.
Yes.
Not ordinary. Right? You are not to come up here and do anything that's ordinary. You are extraordinary. And how we're going to measure that is how many people you help along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because you've been given a lot. So like, you already know how to trade in the stock market. Who are you going to help?
Right.
I want you to start to think about
pay
that.
Pay forward, sure.
Right. And fulfill yourself. But you need to come up here in 10 years and have helped somebody other than just your dreams come true. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's very powerful.
So stepping back and realizing like, you know, these kids got it good.
Yeah.
I can't parent them to make up for what was missing in my childhood.
That's it.
Right.
I have to start them from where they are today.
Yeah.
And then the final thing I always tell them, because I don't know what you're doing with your dreams, but I'm helping people and living my dreams at the same time. If you decide not to help other people, that's cool. I am, and my dreams are still coming true. So I want them to see that I am a work in progress.
That's it.
Right.
And you're witnessing that progress. And then I get inside their head and I'm like,
Yeah.
and you can't turn around and help people?
That's
you,
it.
You
Right.
watch me do it.
Right. Well, it's funny what you said, Victor, is like you like to see your daughters watch you.
Yes.
And I think that's so key when your children see you
Yeah.
in the trenches,
That's it.
so-called,
Yeah.
and they're watching you maneuver through life.
Yeah.
And you're their father.
Yes, it.
And they're like, that's my dad. When they get old, that's what I talk about, that payback.
Let's go.
And it's funny. It's true. I think Tyrone's daughters see him and his accomplishment. And I remember, because I've known Tyrone for so long, I don't think they kind of got that grasp because of our privileged kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And as they got McKenna, you know, it's like, I think they're like, there's something here.
Yeah.
And then they attach to it, you know. And, you know, again, I always went to therapy. My therapist was like, don't worry. He says, you're doing great. The payback is going to be huge.
That's
and he'll
awesome.
give me a time frame, like watch when he's 21 and 22 or when she's becomes like 13, 14, 15, and right on the money.
It was it.
Right on the money. But we have to keep our structure and that motivation
That's
through
it.
their eyes that
Yeah.
they see it. And I think that's so key.
I do want to say just one. I mean, there's a lot to say.
Yeah,
but I
there's
just
so
wanna
much to
make this point. It's because we are setting expectations for them
Sure.
constantly. And here's the thing that I have realized. Okay, my father passed away. I still want to please my mother. I still want her approval. There's nothing like her saying, "Wow, this food tastes good,"
Right.
or "This house is nice," and I try to turn that switch off. If I'm being totally honest,
That's great.
I try to turn it off, like, you've done enough.
Right.
But when she comes over, there's still part of me that says, "Tell me I did a good job."
Wow.
Wow,
That's awesome,
really?
man.
Yeah.
And I'll never, I'm at peace with, like, I'm never going to really stop wanting that. And I think my kids or our kids
Yes.
want that. There's nothing like your parents saying, "I'm proud of you, great job."
Nothing like it.
I don't care what your boss says, but
Right.
when your dad and your mom are proud of you.
Yeah.
That's it.
And at any level when they say that, wherever they are, you know, over the years when my dad would be in and out too, like I remember like running really fast up the stairs, like, man, you're getting fast.
Wow.
That's amazing. I'm like, things like that baffle me, but that affirmation that he gave me at that moment, and I didn't know when I was going to see him again, or he's off traveling, doing whatever he was doing. It just locked me in, you know, as a boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so true when you say that when these kids need this constantly in their lives.
And the sad reason that I think I recognize it is because I realize how many fathers damage their kids.
yeah,
Oh,
of
man.
course.
You're an idiot, or why you're doing
Yes.
that, or that, like, degradation.
Yes.
So it's
And
so
that
bad.
really heightened, like, I have the ability to help shape someone,
Right.
and especially girls, right?
And so that's a great segue into my next question, which is about being fathers, being parents. Everything you said is true, but is there something specific about being a male within a parent relationship?
Yes, because I will kill you.
No, mama's gotta kill you
Your
too.
mother will love you. But I say to my daughters,
Right.
let me tell you something. I'm not your mother.
right.
Okay, so you come over here
Yeah.
with a funky attitude,
Right.
acting disrespectful.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes on over there, but I'm telling you what's not going to happen.
Come on.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the maleness
Yeah.
to help your kids move along in a productive way.
it.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
I agree.
And the structure with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, this is the other thing, because when I fly into New York, I have dinner with my daughter. Like, what time my flight gets in at this? What time are we meeting? And it's weird. It's like I'm dating my daughter.
That's
Right.
it. Yeah, you
Right?
should. Yeah.
But I realize I'm not dating her. When I take her to a restaurant and I pull out her seat, I'm setting an expectation.
Come on, baby.
For this is how a man should treat you.
Right.
I don't say that.
Right.
But those are my actions.
Right.
So that she comes to expect that, like, oh,
Right.
I could easily have a guy who takes me to a nice place, talks to me about me, doesn't talk about him all day.
Right. Respectful.
Right.
Everything.
Come on.
And so that's the power of maleness, if you will, when it comes to being a father. And I believe that.
Yeah, and I agree. For me, I have such a vast, mosh pit of kids that my boys is a different way of talking to them. You know, it's like respectful with women, with girls, right? Be polite. Always be there for them. You know, all the even the little funny stuff. When my oldest boy was young, he's like, "Dad, yeah, what's up?" He's like, "How many times am I supposed to tell my girlfriend I love her?" Like, what's up? He's just like, she's like, you didn't say, like, I told you 20 minutes ago. I'm like, son, more the merrier. Just say it as much as you can. I don't even give you the answer, but just tell him you love him, man. And she's like, oh, I go, I know, I hear you. I hear you, but that's what it is. But, do you like her? He's like, yeah, I love her, Dad. I go, then tell her. It's like, it's okay. It's not a bad thing to have these feelings and be like intimate, And the same conversation I had with my 15-year-old last year, 14-year-old, when we started talking about the birds and the bees. And she was like, I was like, I can't lie to you. She's like, I think I'm in love, Dad. I'm like, love is great. It's amazing, baby. It feels so good. I can't even lie to you and tell you, like, you know what, you're not good right now. You're only 14 going on 15. I go, love is amazing. Love gives you the butterflies. Love is an amazing feeling when someone can hold you and care for you and nourish you. And so I said, now, you're too young to be more intimate than that. I'll tell you that right now. It's just for Mom and I, like, you're too young. But love that stuff and appreciate that experience and know what it's like to feel giddy and when you like a boy and stuff. And I said, don't let that go. It's just because it's beautiful. But we go back to our structure. And I think for men, it's even harder because men kind of sometimes, dads, we both know who are in and out. It gets me a little bit agitated when I see that. When he's like, oh, well, the mom she makes it difficult. I'm like, nah, brother. The mom's not making it difficult for you to see your kids. You're making it difficult to see your kids. That's what it is. So, and then guys too are like, yeah, my girl. I go, tell your girl, get a new girlfriend.
Straight up.
Get a new girlfriend. I mean, when I met my spouse, my son and I were a package deal. It was not me. It was like, this is it right here. And that's part of parenting. And she had children. So when I came into that, her kids are my kids. I mean, that's how I dove into it. But she was really receptive to that too. So we are literally one unit. That's how we are. And with your kids all together, we get them all together and we preach the same thing to our kids, right? And it's like kind of what Tyrone teaches in the thing. It's like sixth grade math. It's like over and over and over again. It's not ABCD, ABCD, ABCD. It's not ABCDL. Who said that? It's ABCD. It might be monotonous to them, but the payoff, again, is huge. And so it's interesting that structure is really a small foundation for your children, but you just got to stay with it. And it doesn't take much.
So then, Victor, I'll ask you, out of everything that we're talking about, it definitely sounds challenging as well as rewarding the way that you put it.
Sure.
What has been the biggest challenge when it has come to parenthood with you?
So I guess my biggest challenge is with my son and my daughter, I don't get to have them, right? So I'm not a full-time dad, right? So my son is in Houston and my daughter's in Louisiana. And now that my son is he turns 11 tomorrow.
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
great.
Crazy.
So proud of you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. The hardest thing now is to actually, I want to give more. I want to be more involved. I want to give more. I need him here, honestly. That's what I really need at this age now. He's 11, about to be 12. Like, it's that time. Like, he got to learn how to be a man type of deal. Right. So that's my deal. Just kind of beating myself up about, like, just making sure that I would give him everything he possibly need, whatever he needs to be, what he needs to be, and what he sees himself, to make sure I'm there for him. And, of course, for my daughter as well. She's much younger, but women grow up so fast.
They do.
Right? And so, I mean, when she's 11, she's going to be way older than him, quote unquote, right?
Right, yeah.
And so that's kind of my deal right now. So as a challenge for me, if I were to be, honest, it's just being there as much as I possibly can, whether that's Skype or whatever it is.
Right.
When I get them three times a year right now,
right.
Just making the most out of that. And then when I do have them full time, to make sure I make the most out of that as well. So it's just kind of.
Amen. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So with all of you being successful entrepreneurs, and especially, again, going back to you, Randy, you said one of the keys is spending time with, then how do you gentlemen balance between being a parent and being a successful businessman?
Well, for me, I'm fortunate in so many ways because I'm married now and I have a great wife and a partner in this thing called life. It is a little juggle. I have girls, and I feel like I'm learning all over again. I get a lot of stuff from Tyrone because his daughters are older, so I've got to watch him with his daughters growing up. So I pick from people. I definitely stole from Tyrone, and I figure it out on my own. But there's a time, it's not so much of like quantity, but the quality.
Okay.
Right? Big deal. big deal, the quantity and quality. And to give you that example, I always tell people where it's about the quality. If you asked my son in New York growing up, he would tell people that I would pick him up and drop him off every day at school. Now, we had a nanny, Maxine, who's still dear in our lives till this day. And Maxine would take my son to school and drop him off. Now, during my day in New York, when he was getting out of school, I would take the subway uptown. I would wait for my son to come out of school. He'd walk me 50 yards to the subway, back downtown. And at my wedding as my best man, his memory of me, he said, my dad always picked me up.
Wow.
And now not to put Maxine down because she was at my wedding. And she was just like, but she was so, she was like, she's like, so my son's memory was I'm the one who picked him up and dropped him off. And I was like, brother, I said, I just took you to school. I went down, I literally picked him up, went down the subway, and I left, and he went home with Maxine. But his memory, so that quality time that I put in my schedule. Now, if I was way downtown, like, I got to get uptown. So what's that express train? I'll just go right back down. That was part of my regiment of my life with my first son. And I've used that even now in my businesses and what I do when I travel. And it's so funny because when I go to New York, my 15-year-old is like, when are you coming home? I'm like, baby, I'm going to be gone for 2 days. I'll be right back. And she'll call me all the time. She's like, you coming back? I'm like, yes, I'm coming back. Why don't you come with me to New York the next time I go? She's like, really? I go, yeah, if you're not in sports, I'll take it with. But that quality time is the most precise thing you can do for kids because that's what in their head.
And I want to say, I think we're all making it up as we go along.
Absolutely.
For sure.
But I started this program. I started a program.
Yes.
And I call it Everybody's Dream Gets a Turn. So when you guys are doing something important at school, write that down on the calendar. If you want me there, I will fly in, if it's not our usual time, to be there. Because your dream has a turn. But you have to understand right now where Dad is right now. I can't do everything because I have other dreams, and they get a turn.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
what we're going to do is we're all going to support everybody's dream, the three of us. Mm-hmm. You just got to tell me when.
Yes.
Right? So they're like, oh, okay. So everybody's dream gets a turn. That means Dad's dreams are still coming true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I got to give him that. And then he'll come into town when it's something really, really important if it's not my scheduled time to see them. So that's the first thing. So I tell him now, and we do this mostly over dinner because I like to cook. So I'm like, everybody has to understand, going forward, we're all going to support each other, but everybody's dream gets a turn. Right. So like when McKenna's doing a show, we all need to show up, not just Dad. We all need to show up and be there because that's a big show. The other thing I think is really important, which I really hope pays off, is communication. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's not just me. That's me listening to them. I go, how's your friend such and such? She was so funny. I take an interest in their life. Mm-hmm. I encourage them to talk to me about even those small things.
Sure.
That's it.
Right? So like I'm the person you can talk to.
Right.
Like for real, right?
And that's earned over years. That's when your kids can do that, it's amazing. Like when my oldest son would call me, and I know, and he's so self-sufficient, and I think that's funny. We talk about that structure. He knows he's got a room.
Come on.
He knows that he has got a safe haven to go to. So we're always talking about kids like, go ahead, man, go out there and fail. We're right here. Just go out and do it again and fail. We're right here. You didn't have that. Right. I didn't have it. Right. When we failed, we were like, all right, I still got to pay the rent. I still got to do my thing. I got to hit this audition. I got to make sure I hopefully get this thing. I got to make my shift. With my son, like, go ahead and fail, man. We're right here. That thing in his head, with all my kids, that I think they have that in their head that if worse comes to worse, I got some back. And that, I think, is key. So when my son calls and he starts talking and stuff, I'm quiet. And he starts going, and I know that's when he wants to get stuff out. That is earned.
Yes.
That is earned.
I see it.
It's so great to have that, which for men, I think, because we don't get that as much.
That's
you know.
And these days, I'm like, when things go well, text me, tell me.
Yeah.
Right? Tell me. And so I'm always texting back. I'm so proud of you.
Right.
That's great.
Right. Now
Now that you did that, and I hit him with reinforcement. I'm like, didn't I tell you were going to be a great person in the world? Look at all the things that happen. So communication is really important. And sometimes I'm really interested in what their best friend is. And sometimes I'm really not that interested.
That's right.
But they deserve, as human beings, a dad who's like, what happened to who asks what happens to that teacher or that grade,
Sure.
or that story you told me about.
Yeah.
Because I am so aware that I am modeling for them male
Absolutely.
behavior. Right?
Sure.
So that's all intention, and I hope it pays off in a big way.
Right. And it has to pay off in that way. It always does, because you're in it. I mean, it's just so basic. If you stay in it long enough, it's just going to pay off. Kind of your circle stays in that circle.
That's it.
Just with entertainment too. As long as you keep doing it, like that circuit small and small. With your kids and stuff, they know that you're there. They know you are the fallback person. They might have
looking
this
at us
attitude.
like, could you all be my father?
No, I love my dad. And in fact, as you all are talking, I'm getting tingles because I feel like I've been blessed with a fantastic father. I just know it's about you all and not me.
Right. No, thank you.
James McDuffie, thank you
Right.
very much.
That's right. But you know that feeling that you have, and this is
Yes.
what I've ultimately learned. A lot of people don't have that.
A lot don't.
and
So how fortunate
Yeah.
are us?
Right.
Absolutely. And then also being in the listening chair. I originally was going to challenge you, Tyrone, when I specifically asked about men being dads. And you talked about, I'm going to kill you, and a structure. But everything you've talked about has been love, has been that reinforcement
Yeah.
of communication.
Right.
Yeah.
We neglect to talk about men and communication, but all of you sitting here sound like you are doing a fantastic job. So
Thank you.
keep up the good work.
Well,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One wish you have for your kids. Started off.
One wish I
with.
have for my kids?
One wish you have for your kids.
Happiness.
Happiness.
Yeah. Live whatever dream they want to live. Happiness.
Be a fine human being. Don't just think about yourself.
One piece of advice you have for fathers.
Be present.
That's a good one.
You can't take it, man. That's mine.
I know, right?
Go for it.
Man, be example.
Show up. It makes a difference.
And show up, you absolutely did. Thank you so much for your time and all these nuggets of wisdom that you shared. Let's tell everyone how they can continue to follow your journey, whether it's in business or in fatherhood. Randy Hernandez,
Yeah,
go
you can
for
find
it.
me at Instagram at Randy Hernandez, and at Twitter I'm at Randy L, middle initial Hernandez. So easy to find.
All right, Victor Rogers.
You can find me at the DB Lab on Instagram. Also, all the platforms at the DB Lab. So it's the @ the DB Lab. There you go.
Awesome.
And I'm thewealthyinvestor.net. That's thewealthyinvestor.net.
Coming with his own commercial.
Hey,
I
that was
love
pretty
it.
good, bro.
Coming soon.
That was
Hey,
great.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, so we had a great time today. Thank you all for joining us. We had such a good time. We might have to have a part 3. Would you guys come back?
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, of
Well,
All
course.
right, well, we would love to have you. All right, thanks, folks.
Thank
this
you.
is Janora McDuffie with the Urban Come Up Podcast.
The Urban Come Up podcast is sponsored by LA Digital Recording, where you can have your podcast professionally edited and distributed to your fan base. Visit ladigitalrecording.com/podcast editing.